Spring is finally springing, so I decided to come out and enjoy one of my favorite spots at sunset. So I'm down at the lakefront at the lighthouse, Milwaukee Harbor Lighthouse in Milwaukee. You can see why I love the spot, can't you? But I have nothing real to say tonight. I started a new post. Homegirl had to go back to corporate. Ain't no checks like a corporate check, right? So went back to corporate. I'm in training for a new position, and there's this woman in training. She's just been on my mind since I met her, so I just wanted to share. So she's about I'm in her age group. She's a few years older than me. She's a contemporary, and one of the things that really struck me with her is let me see if I can clean my lens here. Look, that's better, huh? So one of the things that really struck me with her is how stuck she is in identity based on her past and based on her origins, right? And what I mean by that is that we all come from someplace and we all have a past, but we all aren't stuck in where we come from, and we aren't all stuck in our past. And I've actively lived my life to grow away from or grow out of my beginnings, right? So, I mean, I know where I come from, I know what I've lived through, and I embrace it all as part of me, but I don't believe that is all that I am, right? And so I think she's in her early 50s, and she recently lost a niece to gun violence. The niece was riding in a car with someone who hit another car, so there was a car accident, and the person who was hit got out the car and started shooting at them. So it was a young 17-year-old girl who had recently given birth as in last month. And so this woman tells me, or she tells the training class, and by the way, everything she shared is in a corporate training session or setting, which is astounding to me. So she said that basically when she heard this, her first instinct was to find out who the girl was that her niece was driving with, and take a few of her relatives and go beat that girl down, because how dare she drive away from the scene of an accident, because she was driving away, she was running from an accident. And I said, well, where's your compassion? I said, reach for your compassion. I said, why would you want to assault the other victim, right? She was shot at too. Like, she almost lost her life the same day as your niece lost her life. Why would you want to go traumatize her more? Like, I couldn't understand that. And one of the things she kept on saying was, on the real, I'm from the west side of Chicago. I'm from the west side of Chicago. And we handle this shit like street people. This is what we do. You know, we call our people and we go and handle our business. I said, I understand that. Like, part of me wanted to say, I'm from Gary, Indiana, murder capital of the world for several decades, but that's not how I handle shit, right? So, but I didn't say that. She still doesn't know where I'm from. She thinks that, I have some, storied life or whatever. But what I said was, I said, why does anyone run? People run because they're scared. So why, I said, if I were to think like you're thinking, I would want to go find the shooter, right? And handle him with street justice if I were to do anything like that. But why would you, I said, I'm assuming if this was your niece's friend, she's also probably a young girl, probably 17, early 20s, whatever, if she was driving. Why is your first instinct is to go violate a young woman who was already violated, whose life was already threatened, who lost her friend in front of her eyes to gun violence? Why would that be your first thought, was to go do more violence to that young woman? And the rest of the class was like, yeah, like, why wouldn't you go after the shooter? Like, no one understood this thinking. And I've been disturbed by this conversation all week. This happened on Monday. I think the conversation happened on Monday. Today is Thursday. I've been truly disturbed by this conversation all week. I'm disturbed to the point that today and yesterday, I couldn't even truly participate in the training. Like, I answered questions and this and that, but my mind was just someplace else. And I was like, when I'm sitting in a space and my spirit is truly troubled and I don't want to talk, Something is wrong. And I'm like, wow, this is just so profound to me. And at the same time, the same woman throughout the training is talking about how, talking about her pastor and talking about how she's a woman of God and how, I mean, it's just like incongruous, whatever, you know what I'm saying, right? It's just incompatible speak, one, that you want to do violence, that's your first, instinct. Two, that you insist on, you have a relationship with both God and your pastor, and your first instinct is to do violence to other people and other victims at that, not other violators or perpetrators, but other victims. So what I wanted to share today about this is you don't have to be where you came from. You don't have to be who you were. You don't have to, like, her everything she identifies as is violent and hateful and demeaning. Everything. I'm from the west side of Chicago. This is how we do. This is how we get down. Every time she's identified towards something negative, it's been something of an outburst, right? And I'm sitting here thinking, like, wow, like, God is so good, because I have a background that if I truly believe that I could only ever be what people told me I was, I would literally be nothing at the bottom of someone's shoe. Like, I mean, and this is what I've been thinking about this week, is how amazing, how amazing I have made my own life, and how amazing it is that I was able to just pull my own self out of, I won't say the gutter, but pull myself out of the space of an outcast, right? So I think many of us have these situations in life where we feel as if we're outcasts within our own communities. And I have truly been an outcast within my own community and my own family. And that status has not been something that has defined me in a negative way consistently. If anything, it's motivated me to do better and more for myself. Within 5 minutes of meeting this woman, I knew so much history of violent history of her life and her family, that I just didn't know how to respond. So, when we arrived in the building, we were taken to a training room, and I introduced myself. She was there with one other person. Introduced myself when I came in. And she goes, oh, I saw you when we were getting fingerprinted. And she's, from fingerprinted to talking about how she used to work for this company 10 years ago, but she had to leave because she had just found out that her daughter, was being molested. And that went to a whole history. I'm like, literally from, hi, my name is LaShonda, to, hey, I saw you last week when we were at this spot, to, we used to work here, but I left. Like, it went that quick to, I'm hearing deep family history at a conference table in a corporate setting. And I was just so stunned. I was like, and she talked for a long time. Her marriage ended over this. Her daughter's rapist raped her daughter for several years, and it was her stepson. So the marriage ended over that because the father of the son tried to effectively silence her daughter from going to the police or talking to the police, because he didn't want his son's life ruined. So it went from that story to learning that the stepson was later murdered by someone else in something unrelated. And I'm sitting there just in shell shock, because I have my own violent stories. I'm used to violent stories, but not in such a setting. And I was just like, how do I respond? Because usually when people share, I share, right? I bring out my story and I commiserate, and I try to offer words of, solace and comfort. But I was not in a space where I felt comfortable sharing my innermost, deep and intimate and private history. So what I said to her was, it seems as if you're still coping with this. Because if this is the first thing that you speak to somebody when you meet them, You haven't taken care of something. You haven't confronted something. You haven't done the work necessary to care for your sanity, to care for your mental health, to care for your healing, to care for your family possibly, right? Because I most of my friends probably know about my history, being violated as a child, but I can almost guarantee that the sharing came years after we met, or sometime after we met, and certainly not within the introduction period. I was like, well, I'm really at a loss for words. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I said, you're obviously still dealing with this. And she said, yeah. I said, you're still trying to process it. That's what I said. I said, it seems you're still trying to process all of this. And she said, yes, I am. So that was last week. And so this week, when she said what she said about wanting to go, basically violate and abuse and beat down the young girl that was in a car with her niece who got shot when they were both shot at, I said, usually when this type of rage is our first response, it's not the situation that's bringing out. It's something that comes from our past that we haven't dealt with. And perhaps you should take time to deal with whatever you haven't dealt with in the past that's bringing this level of rage to the forefront as soon as you lost somebody. I said, because as much death as she's talked about, I know 2 weeks I've known her now, I said, this is not going to be the last person you lose. And do you want this level of response to be your response every time you lose somebody, or every time you're disappointed, or every time something happens in your life? Like, you can't sustain that. And she looked at me and she was like, you're right. She goes, wow. She goes, you just say, she goes, on the way out the door, she goes, thank you for that. And I want you to keep on encouraging me. And honestly, folks, that sort of pissed me off. I just felt some kind of way that, I don't know if it was like a play for sympathy, if it was a play for attention, or if this is the way that she gets attention, or the way that she stirs the room, or this is the way that she announces herself. But I'm sitting here thinking, you need to learn to encourage yourself. I had to learn to encourage myself. Ain't nobody sitting here propping me up every day. But at the same time, I'm not sitting here trying to think of destroying people, for doing things that humans do. Humans are destroyers. This is what humans do. I was just disturbed by that. So I just wanted to share with you guys that you are not stuck. You are not confined to who you were. You are not confined to where you became the son or daughter or child of somebody. You're not confined to that family, to that space, to that town, to that city, to that street, to that neighborhood, to the classification of whatever someone classifies you as. You can literally be and become whoever you want to be and become. And if that person is kind, if that person is thoughtful, if that person is free, if that person is just somebody who is free of labels, of other people's judgments, of other people's violence, of other people's hatred, be that person. Like, you have a choice here. You can be that person. We had a conversation also, and the same people had a conversation about relationships, because she said that she was ready to be married again. Her I don't know how long she's been divorced from her husband, but she was saying she was ready to be married again. And I had said something to the effect that, I said, yeah, no, I think I'm single for life at this point. If God wanted me married, I would have been married a long time ago. I said, I'm not trying to, and mind you, the man in the conversation was our trainer. This whole setting is so unprofessional, by the way. And he was saying how he's on his third wife, by the way. So I'm like, wow. And he was saying how he's committed to marriage and getting it right eventually. And, that, marriage is all about finding somebody whose level of crazy you can accept. And I said, I'm at a point where my level of crazy is all I'm willing to accept. Like, I am not trying to figure out somebody else's crazy. But I went home and I was thinking, why is this how we think about relationships? Like, why are we thinking that we want to spend our lives with somebody who's just a little bit less crazy than I am? Our thinking is completely, it's just fucked up. Thinking about everything, the way we think about ourselves, the way we think about our interactions with other people, the way we actually interact with other people, it's all just wrong. I think that's what's been bothering me, because it's just been like I've just been so down these last few days. I'm like, oh my gosh, that energy has just been dragging me down. No, I don't want to figure out some crazy man's personality. I want to figure out some man's personality who is bent on kindness, gentleness, partnership, growth, unity, things that I don't want to have to wade through hysterics and drama and baby mamas and, all this other stuff that people just think is par for the course. It's not par for the course. That's just what you expect. So your expectations are what you look for. Yeah, so that's what I have to say on this beautiful twilight evening. I just figured I'll share. I haven't shared in a while. You guys probably think, life is just kicking my butt. And it is, but I'm still smiling. God bless. To God be the glory. Wherever you are, I hope that you are being true to who you are, and what you want in your life. Like, you are literally the captain of your own ship. I know someone who's always saying, I might tell her something. She's like, well, pray on it, or make sure you're talking to God and asking God. And I get so sick of that response sometimes. Yes, I do. And I often tell her, like, when you are in right relationship, when you have a relationship with God, you literally don't have to say, hey, God, this is what I'm thinking today. Is that okay? No, it's like, just like if you're in right relationship with your mama, you know what your mama want. Do you have to go home and ask your mama, hey, mama, can I cook milk? Can I cook dinner for you? If your mama is okay with you being in the kitchen, you know that you can cook dinner and she ain't gonna say nothing to you. Like, there's just certain things that are okay within a relationship. So I don't need to go to God for every single thing that I want, because He's already trained me. He's already provided for me. He's already presented me to myself and allowed me to present myself to Him, right? So I know that there are certain ways and certain things where I can just continue to move forward because I've already had the training. And may that also be so true in your own life. Yes, there are things that we need to pray on. There are things that we need to supplicate ourselves for. But if you have been paying attention to your own life, you know what is right for you, what is good for you, and what is for you. So keep on pushing, keep on moving. God bless. To God be the glory. Be all you can be and all you are built to be. Amen.